The only thing I do know is you need to get to one Bitcoin because the world is getting crazier and crazier. Bitcoin is your exit card. At any moment in time, you can basically pack your bag and fuck off if you need to. And then deal with things from afar. That's what you want. Really, what you want is you want to put distance between yourself and the problem. That's it. You want to put distance between yourself and the problem, and the way you do that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the distance creator. You get into Bitcoin today, and it brings you further and further away from the problem, which allows you the mental freedom, the time to deal with the issue as it's coming towards you. And that's what Bitcoin is, and that's what Bitcoin will always be. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. Bitcoin is the exit card, and you gotta own some, and you gotta get to that one Bitcoin. And I'm not naive enough to think that one man in Donald Trump is going to fight against this entire system. I'll tell you what is good, though. I'll tell you what is good. I think Trump is the right person in there right now, because that's what you need to do in order to make America the preeminent force. You need a bully there. That's why I think President Trump is going to be president. And of course, anyone voted for President Biden, I think it's really sad. I think this gentleman is experiencing aging, right? That's what's going on here. He's one of the slickest talkers in politics 20 years ago, and now look, it's just aging. That's all it is, right? This is not some grand conspiracy here. This is a gentleman that's aging, and I think he should be taken away. If I was his family member, I would say, listen, it's time for you to stop this, right? It's time for you to stop this. I think they're being cruel by having him up there. Plus, the Democrats have other options that can argue against Trump in the right ways. So, I don't know why they haven't done it. I'm not a political expert. Look, at the end of the day, we've got fascinating things happening here, right? I would have never thought that you would have had, in the space of 1 year from a Bitcoin ETF, you know, a Bitcoin House, a Bitcoin Senate, and a Bitcoin President and Vice President in the USA, the single biggest, most powerful capital markets in the world, and they're all aligned towards Bitcoin now. That is how swiftly BlackRock and all these other entities work, because they are coming to take the game. It is not a surprise that throughout the entire sell-off that we've just seen, the BlackRock ETF didn't have one single sale. No outflows, right? They didn't have any outflows. They might have had some pause days, but they didn't have any significant outflows, because they understand what Bitcoin is. Anyone who's saying that, you know, anyone who's buying this BlackRock product on ETFs is a trader and all this other stuff basically can stick their head up their ass now, because it's all completely bullshit, and that's been proven. These guys are coming for the game. They understand how this asset works. They understand it is the single most hardest asset humanity has ever created, and they need to get as much of it as they can. And Donald Trump is based on what's going on, just like we can see in the UK, it was going to be Keir Starmer. It looks like Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. I'm not naive enough to think that this assassination attempt was a single guy that never used social media, that climbed on top of a roof less than 200 yards away from the president and managed to take a rifle shot at him. I'm not naive enough to think that that was done, by accident, right? If it was, right? So this is my conclusion on the whole thing. And again, I want to reiterate, as I've been saying on Twitter, I'm not a security specialist, not a military experience. Any of my criticisms should be taken with a pinch of salt, and I don't mean to criticize anyone who's willing to put themselves between another human being that is not related to them and a bullet, right? All of those men and women were absolutely amazing and brave to do that, and courageous to do that. However, looking at it, if I'm hiring security and I'm not the most important person in the world, if I'm hiring security, I at least want someone that's going to cover my head. I at least want someone that's going to cover my head. So you look at it and you go, okay, well, this has come down to absolute incompetence or complicity. Either one is terrifying. But, the U.S. Secret Service does a great job, and I'm sure, if it was incompetence on the day, that will be corrected, and I think it was corrected. If you saw the RNC, the Republican National Convention, there's not a single person under Trump's height around him, which is a good thing, right? Which is a good thing. You definitely want someone, you're trying to protect the most important person in the world, you at least need, and you're willing to take a bullet, you at least need to be willing to be hit, right? And if you're 3 feet too short, you're not going to get hit, right? And that's your job at the end of the day. But look, exciting things are happening because the bull market Q2, like the second innings rather of the bull market, is about to take off, and it looks like Germany completely wiping out its future by selling all that Bitcoin is done. You know, by the way, it wasn't Germany being stupid. It was the law that they have to sell that Bitcoin because it was procured through criminal proceedings, right? So they had to sell the Bitcoin. They would have to change the law in order to keep the Bitcoin. However, Germany should have changed the law because now what they're going to realize is they've basically made a 40,000 Bitcoin blunder, and they're going to keep going more and more into debt, and not realizing they don't have any assets on the other side to actually make up the shortfall. So Germany's fucking toast, and I hope at some point they come back in and decide they need to buy that 40,000 Bitcoin back, and let's print some money in the Eurozone to do that. And who knows what the price is going to be at that point. But the main thing is there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Germany just sold 40,000 of it. And if you're sitting on the sidelines, you got cash, you're going to wait for them to finish selling in order to take some action and buy that Bitcoin. And so that's what's happened, right? All the buying dried up, the selling finished, and suddenly the buying's back at a clip of $300 million a day through the ETFs and other sources too. We're wrecking shorts. Bears are being put back to sleep. We've got all this good stuff happening here, and in the midst of it, we've got a presidential assassination attempt as well, just for entertainment purposes. Absolutely ridiculous. I pray for Donald Trump and his family. And again, being a Brit, this is completely unusual for me because none of this shit happens in my country, right? We can argue, we can toss insults back and forth, but ultimately what happened? After 14 years of a conservative government, within one day, effortlessly the country moved towards a Labour government, and that transition of power should be effortless to give people stability. And I believe that's what's going to happen in the US, but I even though I'm not afraid to say I'm a conservative in the United Kingdom. I didn't vote conservative this time for the first time in my life. I didn't vote Labour either. But in my opinion, I think the UK needs reform. And I think the UK needs ground up reform. We need to strip out every single thing that the UK is built on right now, because it's all fundamentally wrong for the productivity of the United Kingdom, right? So I decided to take even though it wasn't going to be a productive vote, I decided to take a protest vote on that one. And similarly, I agree with Donald Trump's politics, right? Doesn't mean you have to agree with me, but that's how democracy, quote unquote, that's how democracy is supposed to work. It's supposed to talk about it. It's supposed to be like, hey, this is what I think. Why do I think that Trump is good? Why do you think that Biden is good? That's what you're supposed to be able to do, but that's not the world that we live in. So you need to adapt for the world that we live in. The President of the United States was just almost assassinated by a guy that climbed on top of a roof less than 200 yards away and faced off against the single most powerful, apparently, protection force in the entire history of the world. And if his head was like this, instead of like this, he wouldn't be standing there today. That's insanity to me. So you need to protect yourself. You don't know what's going on in the world. And I'm not naive enough to think that that was all orchestrated by that one single young kid. Right? That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm not naive enough to think that. And that's why I'm saying I pray for Donald Trump. I pray that the November election comes much quicker than we all think. And I pray that the Secret Service is on the side of America here. And I hope Donald Trump wins. And I hope we get a U.S. Republican Senate, a U.S. Republican House, even though most politicians are morons. I just hope it goes that way and they fall in line with the agenda that's been set behind the scenes for and with Donald Trump and for America, because I'm not naive enough to also think that Trump is also the only president in the history of America that's actually standing there running the country. Because Biden has done that. Biden, I don't ever want to hear from another fucking American that, oh, how dare you guys, or no, it's so crazy that the United Kingdom has a monarchy. Ha ha, you have kings. Ha ha ha. What does that even mean? Guess what? You've had a fucking king and you've been voting for a monarchy because they don't run the country and you didn't even know it. And Biden has proved that to you. If you don't wake up after the fact that Biden called Zelensky Putin, called his own vice president, Kamala Harris, Trump, not even the same gender, right? Not even the same universe. If you don't wake up to the fact that when you vote, it literally does not matter, because there is another agenda behind the scenes that you are not voting for that's running the country, because Biden proved it. I pray for President Trump. I hope he makes it to the election, and I hope he gets elected, and I hope we have a Bitcoin House, a Bitcoin Senate, a Bitcoin president, a Bitcoin vice president. I hope we get grants for Bitcoin mining companies. The portfolio is looking amazing right now. Everything is positioned well. And looking for a place to live, and my journey continues here. It's trying to figure out, where I want to split my time in the world. And of course, with the amount of attention that, with the amount of pro-Bitcoin attention going on in the US, it's making me question being in this time zone, because time zone sucks, right? So just to put that into perspective, the US markets open here in Dubai at 5:30 p.m. and close at midnight. Time zone sucks. So, but again, from, I maybe need to consider a US time zone again. So we'll see, right? But again, there are only 21 million Bitcoin. You need to get to 1 Bitcoin. This was always the agenda. If you go back, watch my videos from last August, I've been saying it since then. BlackRock is working behind the scenes here to orchestrate, massage, to get everyone aligned with Bitcoin. And they've managed to succeed here. And the success will be sealed as soon as the US election is done. And I think every country that's experienced a boom over the last 3 to 4 years really needs to think about it, because if Trump is elected president, I think a lot of capital flight is going to happen back to the US, and it's going to be quite intriguing to see how that affects real estate markets around the world and all this other stuff. So these are the things I'm thinking about right now, because I'm thinking about whether to buy or what to do here, or whether to wait, right? And most of the time when I don't know the answer, it doesn't jump out at me. The best thing to do is to wait. So that's what I'm probably going to do. But it's wonderful catching up. But ultimately, there are always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.